The Backstage Experience starts now. Welcome to the Backstage Experience, as we take you backstage with the biggest names and games in entertainment. This week, we travel to Los Angeles to sit down with Tyrese Gibson and Scott Eastwood for a behind-the-scenes look at their action heist drama, 1992. Travel to Middle-earth with the cast of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, and give you a preview of the biggest movies coming up this fall. Plus, in gaming, David Johnson talks all things Star Wars Outlaw, Borderlands 4, and more. All this week, only on The Backstage Experience.
Welcome to The Backstage Experience. I'm Dave Morales.
And I'm John Stenval.
All right, big movie opening up this week. It's called 1992. That year is significant because...
That's when the LA riots happened, right?
And that's what this movie is about. We've got the entire cast joining us, and there's a lot of emotional interviews you definitely want to stick around and see. But wait, there's more.
Yeah, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 2 is now streaming on Prime Video. We're going to talk with the entire cast.
And believe it or not, fall is just around the corner. We're giving you a fall movie preview, everything you need to see. We're going to guide you through it. Before we get started with all that, though, David Johnson has the latest in gaming. David, take it away.
Black Myth Wukong has finally launched, and it has exploded out of the starting blocks at a record-setting pace. Wukong has sold over 10+ million copies of the game on PC and PlayStation 5 in just 3 days, overtaking games like Elden Ring and Hogwarts Legacy in the same time period. On Steam, Black Myth Wukong passed milestone after milestone, becoming the second most played game of all time on the platform and the most played single-player game of all time on PC. The team at Developer Game Science was completely surprised and have shifted into overdrive to provide new endgame story content as soon as possible. Star Wars Outlaws is the newest game in the Star Wars franchise to hit the shelves and allow the player to become the most notorious scoundrel in the galaxy. Players will boot up the game and star as Kay Vess, a new character to the Star Wars universe who seeks to assemble a team and pull off a massive heist to clear her debt. Outlaws also features a 6-level wanted system similar to Grand Theft Auto, but in this game, it determines the strength of the Imperial forces that will chase you down. Gamescom is the annual late summer event where we get a sneak peek at the biggest game releases for the rest of the calendar year, and your wallet is not going to be happy. First up, Bethesda debuted a new look at their highly anticipated title, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. The new Indiana Jones game is a first-person adventure story set within the Indiana Jones franchise. You will have his entire arsenal at your disposal as you span the globe and visit places like Rome, Thailand, and the Himalayas to thwart enemies looking to harness an ancient power. 2K and Gearbox Software kicked off the show with a massive announcement that Borderlands 4 is officially in development for a fall 2025 release. Borderlands 4 will feature a new planet system and will pick up the story left at the very end of Borderlands 3. The popular looter-shooter elements of Borderlands returns for the fourth game, but with new mechanics and increased graphical fidelity. Finally, one of the most popular Gamescom reveals wasn't a game at all, but a new gaming animated series called Secret Level. Secret Level is a new anthology series from Tim Miller and the creators of the award-winning Netflix series Love, Death, and Robots. The show will be a celebration of the gaming industry and debut with 15 distinct episodes. There will be episodes featuring Pac-Man, Warhammer 40K, Mega Man, Kratos from God of War, even Keanu Reeves is piloting a mech fighter for Armored Core. Secret Level will release on Prime Video on December 10th.
There's a lot of great movies coming out this fall. One of the ones that I'm most excited about is Gladiator 2, of course.
Dude, I'm excited about Joker. It's the second Joker, and it's got a French title to it. Allure de feu, le vu, le vu.
Folie à deux.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I didn't even want to try it. We all know it's a new Joker movie. That's coming out. We're going to tell you all about it. Here's a look at the Backstage Experience Fall Movie Preview.
The untold story of Optimus Prime and Megatron
is being told in a digitally animated Transformers 1. Set on the world of Cybertron, the movie is a prequel to the Transformers franchise we've all come to know and love. To the surprise of many, Optimus Prime and Megatron were best friends before they split as the Autobots and Decepticons to become sworn enemies. Rounding out the star-studded cast includes Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, John Hamm, and much more. The Wild Robot is set to steal hearts this fall as a robot named Roz becomes shipwrecked on a deserted island and must learn to adapt to her surroundings. Voiced by Lupita Nyong'o, Roz begins to build close relationships with the native animals, living in harmony, only for an invading force to threaten their way of life. The trailer of this movie looks like it could be one of the year's best animated films. The much anticipated follow-up to 2019's Academy Award-winning Joker is headed to the big screen as Lady Gaga joins Joaquin Phoenix as Harley Quinn and Joker Folie à Deux. Being dubbed a musical psychological thriller, Joker Folie à Deux finds Arthur Fleck institutionalized at Arkham, awaiting trial for his crimes as Joker. While struggling with his dual identity, Arthur not only stumbles upon true love, but also finds the music that's always been inside him. The first film received 11 Oscar nominations and 2 wins, including Best Actor for Joaquin Phoenix. Will this film beat that record? Only time will tell. Gladiator 2, on the other hand, is also expected to be one of the year's biggest contenders at this year's Oscars. But will the movie live up to the extremely high standard of the first film? The movie is set 2 decades after the death of Maximus and follows the story of Lucius, the former heir to the Empire. You actually might remember the character Lucius as the young boy who comes to visit Maximus at the Colosseum. In Gladiator 2, Lucius didn't take power and was cast away to a coastal town where he ends up being taken prisoner and is forced to fight as a gladiator. Sound familiar? This go around, Lucius is played by up-and-coming actor Paul Mescal. Also starring in the film are Pedro Pascal as a Roman general trained under Maximus, Denzel Washington as a Roman power broker, and Connie Nielsen returning to the role of Lucilla, Lucius's mother. And finally, Maui is back in Moana 2. Both Dwayne Johnson and Alali Cravalho will return to their roles as Maui and Moana in the highly anticipated sequel to Disney's love letter to Hawaii and Polynesian culture. This time around, Moana must journey to the far seas of Oceania as she receives an unexpected call from her ancestors. She heads off on an adventure unlike anything she's ever faced before. To overcome her challenge, Moana summons her old friend Maui to help guide her on her way. The first film was fantastic, and we're expecting nothing less in the sequel, with visually stunning animation, hilarious jokes, and catchy musicals from our favorite characters.
Coming up on the Backstage Experience, Tyrese Gibson goes deep as he reflects on his memories as a teenager during the 1992 LA riots and how that fateful week shaped his performance in the new action drama 1992. Only on the Backstage Experience.
Welcome back to the Backstage Experience. Tyrese Gibson gets very emotional in this interview talking about the movie 1992.
That's right. He actually was in the Compton-Inglewood area in LA. He was 14 years old. He's going to share that experience with you. Plus, talk about his brand new album, Tyrese Does the Music. Let's visit with our friend Tyrese Gibson here on the Backstage Experience.
This is my home. These streets raised me.
Might get a little crazy out there today.
Media outlets from around the world await a verdict in the Rodney King beating.
All right, run it for me. Catalytic converters.
They need platinum. How much they got in there?
10 million.
You need a miracle to pull this off.
We'll
jury in the Rodney King trial.
A stunning verdict.
The 4 police officers were found not guilty.
Good to see you again, man.
Man, good to see you, sir.
Tell me about the impact of being a part of this, because it does bring back. I know you were younger, much younger, but what do you remember about that, and how did that play into being a part of this film?
Well, you know, John Singleton,
yeah,
rest in peace, would say to me, as I get further into my journey, he said, you should always try and look for the difference in projects where you're acting versus reacting. So this entire movie was a reaction to what I lived and experienced. I was in Watts, South Central, on April 29th, 1992. I was 14, and I was out there protesting, looting, part of the riots. And the crazy thing, the tagline on the movie, every city has its breaking point. Every community has their breaking point. I mean, I feel like everybody is okay in a certain capacity of dealing with life and politics and, you know, just being on the receiving end of the stuff, and at a certain point, man, I'm done, and then boom, it just explodes. So we all seen what those white police officers did to that black man. They killed him, brought him back to life 6 times. They was just having fun, beating the hell out of him, just knowing that I am the law and I'm above the law. And they were laughing in the courtroom when they got a not guilty verdict. And I think that in itself just sent shockwaves through us all, like, wow, once again, we're disposable. So yeah, doing this film for me was triggering. And then it was a lot of pressure to know that I was the only one literally from South Central in the movie.
All right, we got to talk about music, man, because I love, you know, I'm a music guy. Beautiful Pain, dude. Oh, man. Tell me what's up.
What if I told you the most legendary genius producer in David Foster is an executive producer of my overall album? It's live, it's vulnerable, it's honest. My love for the Lord Jesus Christ would never allow for me to release an album to discourage relationships, discourage people from taking the full journey when you get married because of what I went through. I think we got enough of those songs out there beating each other down with our words about what we've lived and experienced. I've just been fighting through the reality of I got left, filed for divorce, completely shattered, shocked, like pulling out my human calculator, just trying to add it all up. And when a man experiences that level of shock and trauma, why is it misogynistic when we sing about what we feel? And I think it's because we've allowed, in our own way, for women to build these communities, support each other, release songs, do movies, write books, and just continue beating the man down from all of the mistakes that we make. And they've normalized the dialogue. And so I've been catching some bullets about being honest and open and vulnerable. You don't talk, tell me what you think and you're feeling. And then when you finally start talking, man up, grow up, keep all that to yourself. Right. We're dropping Beautiful Pain and 1992, Friday, August 30th. It is, I am purging. It has been psychological warfare. God is the only source, not a resource, my only source of strength to get me through it all.
Set 1,000 years before the events of The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings novels, The Rings of Power dives us into the world of Middle-earth as we watch the rise of Sauron and the creation of the iconic rings. After the break, the stars of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, get us ready for the second season of what people are calling one of the most expensive television shows ever created. That's coming up next. Only on the Backstage Experience.
Welcome back to the Backstage Experience. John, if I do a line from a movie franchise, a series of films,
okay,
what franchise is it? Thou shalt not pass.
That's from the Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. So not
My
only do I know the
precious.
series, but the movie.
My precious.
Yeah.
I use the ring.
So Lord of the Rings is having a huge year. The Rings of Power is now streaming on Prime Video Season 2. We're also going to get a movie, The Lord of the Rings, War over Rohirrim, coming out later this year. But for now, we're going to catch up with the cast of The Rings of Power.
War has come to Middle-earth.
This is the work of Sauron.
Galadriel.
I want to know when this got real for you. Was it when you were cast? Was it a table read? Was it showing up on the set? Was it in costume? When did this get real for you?
You know, there are different moments. There are different moments. I remember the first time that I saw myself in costume, full costume, with my ears on. That was very special, you know, because I came to this, yes, wanting to be part of Lord of the Rings and the lore and everything else, but I came to it in an emotional way, and I couldn't but, you know, there was a tear or two, non-Elven, because we don't cry that much, but it was a tear, like Ismail, the little boy, felt very proud, and I know that magic that I felt looking at myself in that mirror is something that I know a new generation, but also adults are gonna feel, that's my guy, that's me. Now I exist in this world, you know?
I remember when I first got to New Zealand, they had been shooting for months, and I was in an office and someone showed me an iPad, and I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. Who's that? And I pointed at the dwarf, and Patrick McKay said, that's Owain.
Really?
Yes, I didn't even recognize him. And then we walked across a parking lot and walked into a forest where this was all happening, and it was like 2D became 3D, and I was like, ah.
I remember that day.
Remember?
Actually. I remember you.
I was terrified.
Yeah.
So, I want to know when it got real for you, Owain.
For me, the kind of the moment of realizing what I was in was when Rob was down in old Khazad-dûm, stood in the middle, very tall on a box, and about 50 dwarves were around him with loads of rocks and this incredible set. And I just went, oh my God, I'm in Lord of the Rings. And that was the moment where the realization that I was in this, you know, world.
It just looks massive on the screen. What a production. So, how much of a dream is this for you?
I mean, so I grew up in Wellington. So Peter Jackson was making his first trilogy when I was in primary school. He was making the second when I was at drama school. It's just always been part of being a Wellingtonian. And my mum was a huge fan of the books, right from as long as I can remember. You know, Tolkien's always been in my life. But it never once occurred to me that I could contribute to his legacy or be part of these stories. And then when this character came along, for better or worse, I saw a place I could fit.
Well, I mean, the number of times I wore a bathrobe and said, "Thou shalt not pass," again, is infinite. But also, when I was younger, my older brother, gave me The Hobbit. It was like the first big boy book I ever had, and that was a kind of turning point in my childhood. And so for me, it has that kind of familial connection. Like and like you say, it is epic. The amount of the scale of it, yes, but also the amount of work that has gone into it. This army of craftspeople and artists that they've assembled to create our worlds and our wardrobe and to bring it to life is really humbling.
Before we go, Scott Eastwood reflects back on working with his co-star, the late Ray Liotta, on his final movie, 1992. It's an emotional interview you don't want to miss.
You know, irreverent, funny. He's an electric actor, too.
Only on the Backstage Experience.
Welcome back to the Backstage Experience. And before we go, we're going to catch up with Scott Eastwood, who actually got to work with Ray Liotta on his last film. And Dave, Ray was actually you were one of the last people to interview Ray.
I did. He called me a softie, and that's an interview you can find on our YouTube channel. Scott Eastwood, recognize the last name? Yes, he's Clint Eastwood's son, and he's going to reflect on working with Ray Liotta in 1992. Ray Liotta, who I had the honor of interviewing several times. He always called me a softie.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know. Did you ever see the Ray Liotta movie Karina that he did with Whoopi Goldberg?
I don't know if I saw that one.
Find it.
Okay.
So at one of our interviews, I said, my favorite Ray Liotta film is, and people always say, The Goodfellas or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, no, Karina. He goes, oh, you're a softie. And he never let that go.
Yeah.
Working with him, let's talk about his legacy, watching him work. What was that experience like for you?
Irreverent, funny. He's an electric actor too. He was incredible. He really knows what he's doing and really lives in the moment and brings the heat. So getting to play opposite that was a real treat.
Good for you, man. Good for you. You just nailed him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big heart.
Big heart.
To the point. Always.
Always.
And just you knew where you stood with Ray.
Yes.
On the next episode of the Backstage Experience, it's all about Beetlejuice. Oops, let's not say it one more time. As stars Winona Ryder, Jenna Ortega, Monica Bellucci, Catherine O'Hara, and even Beetlejuice himself. Take cover. Michael Keaton joins us on the show. That's next week, only on the Backstage Experience.